say our names, right? Hi, this is the final negotiation. This is Andrew
Gonzalez.
and I'm Patricia Esteban.
Great. So let's get started. So, I'm here from Right Development, and we're here to talk about the possibility of having some stores as the anchor tenant for I think it's the Northview Mall.
Yeah.
Now, in our previous negotiations, we were able to settle on acceptable rent, percentages for both the base and the percentage rent. So we don't really need to talk about that today. That's already settled. And the same goes for the lease, the duration anyway. We settled on 30 years for that.
Yeah.
But we still have a lot of headway to make with the assignment, use, and subletting. So I think that today we should just focus entirely on those and come up with something that's mutually beneficial.
I agree.
Then we can go from there.
Okay.
So I think what we should do is just kind of go down the list one thing at a time and kind of try to agree as much as we can on one thing before we move on to the next thing. And then in the end, go through them all one at a time again, just make sure that everything's satisfactory.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. So which one do you want to start with? Assignment, subletting, or use?
Yeah, let's go left to right.
Okay.
So start with assignment. Now remember that assignment has to deal with our ability to grant you the full lease over the space.
Is it just space, or is it time and space?
Good question.
Because it said time is set for 30 years, but I could always sublease it to someone else, which is similar to subletting, I think. But
they're kind of related, yeah. Another part of use is that Right Development can actually sublease other stores in the area, like of some stores, to other satellite tenants.
Yeah.
And, because you're the anchor tenant, you're going to draw all the traffic. But based on who we have as satellite tenants, this can affect what you can sell. But this kind of carries on into use a little bit too. So that's something else to consider. So let me see what I have first.
So what we believe in Summit and what we usually have as Article 22 is to be able to sublease it to another company. We're really looking for flexibility to be able to sublease it in case because of different consumer behavior or business strategy. It's really important for a company to be able to sublease it.
Right. And we understand that. And something else that I'd like to mention is that for us, the main thing we need is some degree of control over what each of our tenants is doing. The reason for this is because when we went to the bank to get the loan to open up the mall, to build it and everything, they said that we needed to have an anchor tenant who could draw a large volume of sales, who's financially sound.
Yeah.
And if we had an anchor tenant such as Summit Stores who fits that description perfectly, then they would be able to give us the loan, and then we could go ahead and build the mall. But if we don't have an anchor tenant, then to put it simply, there could be no mall.
And if you have an anchor tenant, which is us, but you grant us flexibility to allow to assign the lease to similar operators, like similar credit ratings, operating history, product lines, so basically a safety net.
Right.
Would that be okay, or does it have to be just us through the 30 years?
So you're saying, like, if you decide to kind of pull out of the store or the area, you can find another anchor tenant who fits the same sort of description, same industry, same product line, so on and so forth, same credit history. Actually, that sounds good to me, but they have to be willing to kind of agree to the same terms that we're going to agree on now, because if this other tenant that you're going to bring on doesn't agree, then that kind of throws everything off.
Yeah.
So we'll allow for that to happen, so long as this tenant is able to draw in the same amount of traffic, and so long as that they're willing to agree to similar terms that we have established today.
Okay.
As far as, how they can, sublet and use the space.
Okay. So, should we start jotting it down, then we can move it around, but basically submit that sublease to our company with, same safety, right? Like,
Right.
regarding, credit, popularity,
Right.
it would probably have to have like similar items.
Mm-hmm. So the same sort of credit, popularity, product line.
Similar product line. Which will agree to the same terms.
Yeah, which will agree to the same terms that we're establishing now.
Okay. 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 Yeah, I think we can definitely work with this. Because this grants us the flexibility, like if we want to pull out, but also granting you the safety net of having another store, and if we can't find that other store, well, that's something to talk about.
Right. So that's something, if you really need to just get out of the North View Mall, if find some other place to go, then maybe we could even work together and find someone else who can fill the space.
Yeah, definitely.
So long as they can, agree to the same terms.
Okay. And if we can't find anyone, should we leave that dilemma for after? Or that situation, that hypothetical situation, or would you rather jump into it now?
A situation in which,
Like, we want to pull out, but we can't find anyone, which completes all the checklist, the criteria.
for assignment, right? Let's talk about that now, actually.
Okay.
So if you can't find anyone, but you want to just get out of the Northview Mall now, then what are we going to do?
We could always give back the rental space.
So give back the rental space again.
Give
So you're
back-
saying like you can give us some of the space and then we can decide what to do with it.
Yeah, that could be a possibility.
Could be a possibility, but that might actually hurt us if we do that, because if we can't find someone to fill the space, then because we get percentage rent from you guys, and by selling a certain volume of products, we get a certain volume of incremental revenue from them, and in terms of as a percentage rent. And if we just took back the space and we couldn't find a good use for it, then that kind of leaves us at risk, because we are not getting as much from that.
Yeah, I see that. So yeah, okay, so it's definitely important to find something else. I mean, maybe we might not be able to find a company that wants to sublease all of the space, but what if we found a company that's willing to sublease like half of that space? Could we work on them having half of that sublease, and we have us having the other sublease, and have like kind of two smaller anchor tenants? Or do you think that would affect negatively on the whole?
That might
shopping?
affect the traffic to the store, because the idea is that we have one giant anchor tenant. They occupy this whole space, well, or most of the space anyway. You can sublease little bits here and there, but the idea is that there's going to be one large anchor tenant, and then they're going to kind of draw everyone to the store. If we have two anchor tenants in the same space, then it kind of becomes an issue of, well, who's the actual anchor tenant in that case?
But do you think that would be negative? Because I think that might not even be negative. It might be positive to have two anchor tenants.
Well, it depends on, it's very situational, whether it could be a positive or negative. I feel like this might be something we'll have to come back to.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of it is going to kind of tie in with subleasing,
Yeah.
like you
definitely.
mentioned earlier. So how about we talk about subleasing for now, and then we'll come back to the sub.
Okay, subletting, right?
Yes.
Subletting. Okay.
subletting has to do with your ability to take, a certain amount of your space and sell it out to other vendors, and they can sell their products there. Okay.
So as I said before, in Summit we need the flexibility to be able to sublet, if not all of our space, a lot of our space, because that will allows us to adapt better to new situations. And 30 years is a really, really long time.
Right.
So we don't really know what's going to happen. Not even in 10 years, we don't know. We might even be like producing something else, or we might even imagine if we like are closing down in the area of Massachusetts and reallocate somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be able to sublet, if not all, some of the area.
Right. Okay. Yeah. We were thinking about subletting, and we figured that a favorable balance of what space is Summit's and what space can belong to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Felt that a good balance would be 80% of the space that belongs to Summit, and the other 20% can be subleased to other tenants.
Okay.
What do you think of that?
I'm going to understand this. So that I know it's
80% to Summit and 20% to other tenants.
okay.
Do you feel like that offers you the flexibility that you're looking for? Or?
It offers some flexibility, not as much as we hoped for, but to be honest here, if we can get a good compromise for use, we might be able, not, I don't think with those exact numbers, but start approaching those numbers.
Okay.
Depending on the other two.
Right.
So
right now those numbers are tentative, and we'll come back to them based on what other.
I mean, I was looking more towards 60-40, but let me check. Yeah, I was looking more towards 60-40, especially if we give compromises such as like letting the stores we're subletting use our brand name, so the customers wouldn't really know that it's not our brand, so it shouldn't affect the traffic that much.
Okay. Yeah, and there was something else that I had on my list, which is that the companies that you sublease your space to, they should only be allowed to operate there so long as they kind of remain as a department of your store, as opposed to having like their own brand names all over your stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I think that would be a good idea to have them be able to do business in your space, but under your name.
Yeah, under our name. Yeah, definitely. Like since if we work with this, we'll pay close attention to which companies are using our name. Do they have the correct products, the correct quality?
Exactly.
Would you like to move to use to check that out and then like come back to all these things?
Okay. So let's see what I have for use.
Okay, so basically for Summit, I feel as if the most important thing, the most flexibility needed is in use.
Right.
Because as I said before, 30 years is a long time. And we really don't know the products we're going to have in not even 10 years. We might have changed completely from high quality clothing, gourmet food, jewelry and home accessories to other things. So I feel as if, well, most important of all is not having any of the satellite tenants having products and selling products similar to us, so that all the customers that come to the shopping mall will come to us and not to the satellite tenants.
Right. And the same goes in reverse. The satellite tenants can't sell the same things as you, but you can't also sell the same things as them.
Right.
So that's something else to consider.
So basically, what Summit Store sells, I think this is in the common information.
Yes.
High quality clothing.
Clothing, jewelry.
Yeah.
Kind of like Neiman Marcus.
Yeah, exactly. Home accessories and gourmet food. Okay, the problem like I said before, we really need a lot of flexibility here. It feels as if this is the part where we need most flexibility, because if we get concessions here, like I would definitely be willing to give concessions there.
Okay.
But the thing is, right now, for example, my boss left me in charge of this negotiation, and she's actually gone to negotiate, considering negotiation to start producing and selling audio and video equipment, for example. So, audio video equipment, which, as you can see, has nothing to do with what we previously sold.
Right.
This is just like an example to show. This could even be like in 1 year or 2 years. This just goes to show that we have no idea of where the market is going to take us in 30 years.
Right. So you're just using that as an example for something else you might want to sell down the line, in addition to what you already sold.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I would integrate this as not allowing the satellite tenants to sell, just because it's taking place right now, these negotiations. So it's quite possible that we are being sold to in the shopping mall.
Right.
But also as an example, yeah.
So what I was thinking was that if a satellite tenant already sells what you're trying to sell, then we might not be able to allow for you to sell that same thing. But if they don't sell it, then you might be able to sell it. Right? So that was just something I was thinking.
Okay, what do you think about this, Andrew? We're going to start constructing this right now, right?
Right.
And right now, these are the products we sell. So allow like all the satellite tenants to sell every product they want except for these. And imagine, and like this can remain constant for maybe a few years, so that we can give them a bit of like a safety net, like like them knowing that they're gonna be able to sell their products for, I don't know, like 2, 3, maybe 4, 5 years.
Right.
Because I think more or less we can see where our product is heading in the short run. But I think we really need more flexibility. For example, from 5 years onwards, if our company starts going towards another product line, imagine if it starts going towards shoes, or I don't know, what else could it be heading to? Large furniture. Imagine if it turns towards large furniture. And this store here sells large furniture. I think we should have the priority. So shut this store, sublet it to someone else who doesn't sell big furniture, and we could start implementing the selling of the large furniture here. Is that something you could work with? Because I feel as if this is a really important point for Summit.
Right. And that makes sense, but the only thing is, like, if we were to just close the door on another tenant based on, you wanted to go into this new industry, how could we be sure that you're going to generate the same kind of sales that they were in that industry?
The whole reason we would do this is because we would have, the market would shift, and we would see that consumers would want us to sell furniture.
Right.
So maybe, but I see your concern. I mean, I think that if we do this, we're probably going to do it because it's going to be profitable for us. I can see
Right.
that does convey a bit of risk. Is there a risk you would be maybe willing to take on?
I think it would be better, instead of someone having to take on all the risk, if instead we could find a way to disperse the risk over something else. Actually. So what I was thinking was like, actually no, that's not going to be a very good idea. Because what I was thinking was, if you're going to maybe start moving to a new industry and we'll not get one of the satellite tenants, then I was thinking we could charge a higher percent of rental space dedicated to that, just to kind of cover our bases until we can find someone else to fill that space. But the only downside I see with that is, again, if you cannot generate the same amount of sales as they were able to in the same industry, in that space, then it's not really going to be profitable either for either you or us. Okay.
I'm going to jot down the things you said, even though I think it's better than mine. You said something about profits not be the same.
Right. So if we shut down one of the satellites, our profitability would, not be as high because we have one less tenant. And
it could be like it would be replaced by another.
right. It would be replaced by another tenant in the future, but that could take who knows how long.
Yeah.
It could take a few months. Plus, I mean, you'll have this stuff in your store too, but again, it's just a matter of how can we be sure that it's the same as what they were getting for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I don't really see how we can. Okay, let's think. Okay, what if, imagine if we decide to go into the furniture industry, okay?
Right.
We let you guys know, like, we're going to go to the furniture industry, so we want this satellite tenant gone. The moment we say that, you guys can start looking for another satellite tenant with another product. And once you have found that other satellite, then he leaves, and the exact month after, another tenant arrives, and that way it's left unrented. That sort of minimizes the risk, and we can wait a few months. We obviously would put like a maximum to the limit of time we could wait to introduce our new products.
So you're saying keep the other people in business, and then only kick them out as soon as we can find someone to replace them.
Yeah. That way you don't lose rental, like a month rental free.
Exactly.
Which would be losses, of course.
That's sounding a lot better, but again, something else that you mentioned was that you discussed the possibility of maybe moving into the furniture industry. Of course, this is all hypothetical. It's all for the sake of making an argument, but we also need some kind of assurance too that if you were to, because like right now you're a department store selling clothes, jewelry, accessories, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, we feel like if you were to drastically change to go into another industry, that could affect traffic to your stores as well. Because right now, people go to some stores for those things.
Yeah.
But of course, you're saying in the future that they might decide to go there for other reasons.
Yeah, I understand how that could affect traffic. So imagine we're selling right now 100% of our products, okay? And as you said, a drastic change can be not profitable for you guys because it would mean less traffic because we're popular because of what we sell right now. But what if we had a limit to the change we could make in the type of products we sell? Imagine, I don't know, like we would have to look at numbers, but imagine we could change, remain constants for 3, 4, or 5 years, and then for 5 years onwards, we could change, each year we could change 5% of the products we sell.
Right.
That would limit the risk because we wouldn't change drastically. It would mean that even though we changed 5% of the store into furniture, it's only 5%. So clients would still be coming for the rest. If we see this starts having more popularity, next year we would use the other 5% to also sell furniture.
Right. I just had an idea. So by knocking out the satellite tenant and then allowing you, and then having another one come in, and then allowing you to go and sell what they were selling, the other tenant. So if we were to do something like that, then actually, I need to think about it for a little longer.
Yeah,
I
of course,
forgot
take
what I
your
was
time.
saying. Right. Okay, now I just remembered. So if we were to have such an arrangement, so the idea is that if you were to want to move into this industry, you'd have to kind of appeal to us to then knock out the satellite tenant and replace it with someone else. Actually, I think that could definitely work because you want to move into a new industry, but you're still giving us the opportunity to decide if that's a good idea or not. And I think that by allowing us that kind of control of the situation, then I think that could definitely
Yeah, keep going.
Because, if you want to move into a new industry, we'll allow you the flexibility to do so, and we'll also give the opportunity for the satellite tenants to move elsewhere and bring someone in who's more profitable, and then you can go ahead and start selling these new things. Now that I think of it that way, I think that would be pretty mutually beneficial.
Okay,
Sort of
that sounds really good. The only problem I see with that is that we're giving you all of the power, so
Right.
we're a bit of in your mercy. So imagine the hypothetical case that we want to turn to the furniture industry. You guys make a study, you realize you think it's not gonna turn out well, so you give us the no.
Right.
That doesn't give us any power to fight back. We can't do anything about it.
Okay, so you're saying that if you were to be like, oh, we want to move into the furniture industry, then we'll do research, we'll see if it's something. Okay. Well, how about this? How about if you supply us with your findings, and then we'll go and just double check them. That way, you have a say before we even decide to go and say yes or no to this thing. And then we can go and do our own research, check that against what you said, and then we can decide from there if it's a go or no go.
Okay, I think that would work. So we do the research.
Right. So essentially, the burden of proof that this is a good idea is with you, and then we go ahead and we double check to make sure that your reasoning is sound and that it's feasible and all that sort of thing.
Okay. And what if we find out that it's not reasonable?
If it's not reasonable, then I guess then how would we handle that? Because at the end of the day, you think it's reasonable, but we don't think it is.
Okay, what about this? If we both think it's reasonable, we
Right.
do this. Like they go, the satellite tenants go, and we start implementing the new product. If you don't think it's reasonable, then you give us the task to implement it with a limit area in our stores, but the competition doesn't leave. And if we start to make more profit than they do, then they leave. So we have to sort of prove
Right.
that we're good enough.
Oh, okay. But then that raises the issue of the satellite tenants being concerned about you taking away from their profits if you move into the same sort of industry. Now, granted that you're a bigger store and have the potential to draw more people and make more money, that could potentially just shut them out, and that could affect, because what you're trying to do is prove yourself in a way.
Yeah.
But if you have to prove yourself by competing with one of the satellite tenants, that kind of defeats the purpose. Because you're a larger store, so naturally you're going to draw more traffic than they would. In that case, they might just go out of business because you're too big of a store and too many people live with you.
And then they would leave, so
Right,
that's
so that
exactly
might
what we
skew the
want.
results.
True. Yeah, but I definitely like where the research is going. Like us making research, you guys double checking it. I think we need just the last thing to put this together.
Right. So for now, we have some sort of a temporary agreement on as far as what happens if we both agree that this is a good idea. So we have the process established where you'll present us some sort of research saying this is a good idea, why, and who should go.
Yeah.
And then we'll double check that. And if we agree to this, if we agree that your reasoning is sound, then from there we know exactly what to do. Kick the other tenant out after we can find someone to fill the space.
Yeah.
But then again, another question is who's going to find the tenant to fill that space?
And that probably lay with you guys.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that would be definitely reasonable because at least we're given some sort of advance warning. That is our main responsibility to find the satellite tenants. So that was kind of a silly question to ask. Yeah, so we'll decide on the satellite tenant to fill that space, and we'll let them off. The other ones, the other tenant comes. You sell your stuff, but if we don't agree,
Okay, we can come back to this, I think.
right. But I definitely like where this is headed.
Yeah.
I feel like we're making a lot of progress there.
Yeah.
So you want to move to a summit or sublet?
Probably subletting, I think. I sort of don't know why it seems more attractive to me than assignment.
Right.
Okay, so you guys are looking for 80% summit and 20% other tenants.
Right.
That's a really big number for summit. I think if it's really important for you, I understand that for the first, especially for the first years,
Right.
to gain reputation and everything, it's important to have a big anchor store. But as we move towards the older years, I think that percentage should definitely increase to give us more flexibility to be able to sublet more and more and more with time.
Yeah, so you're saying we could start with the 80-20 and then maybe move towards a more of a balance, I guess.
Yeah.
After some time, but something else to consider is that when you sublease space, so essentially what happens is you take some of your space and you give it to another company.
Yeah.
They sell their stuff in that space and you collect some sort of rent on that. But at what point do we get a piece of that? You do pay us a percentage of rent on what you sell, but from my understanding is, does that cover what the companies you sublease to, does it cover what they sell to? That was something else I was kind of wondering about.
So basically what we're saying is if I sublet 10% of the area, I mean your rental fee.
Right, so we charge rent based on your volume of sales.
Okay.
So we have a base rental price and then an extra amount based on how much sales you generate.
Well, I think
and my understanding is that this, the incremental, I guess, the rent based on the percentage of sales, that comes from your sales, but does it also include the companies that you sublease to? That was something else I was kind of wondering about. Because if it does, then that could work out. But if it doesn't, so that you're collecting rent from these guys, but we're not getting a piece of it, then that might not work.
Okay, well, I think the base should remain the same.
Yeah, the base definitely is the same. We've already agreed to the percentages, so I don't think we should change those so
and
much.
what percentage was it the selling?
Wasn't really mentioned. It just said that they were agreed upon items. So we should really change it.
Should we put like a hypothetical number?
Yeah, we can do that. We'll say 15%.
15?
So let's say it's 15%.
Yeah. Let me check
Actually,
my information.
I think we could just bypass this if we can say that you can sublease this space so long as the sales that that they generate are also like incorporated with your sales.
That is a really good idea. Yeah. They have our brand name and everything, so they should be incorporated with our
So
sales.
they should be okay with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's what I did. So sales.
Yeah, I think that keeps everything pretty simple.
To our sales. Okay. So basically, since the subletting companies are gonna carry our name and like our logo and everything.
Right.
I think we should have the flexibility of choosing who we want to sublet to, as long as it doesn't
Affect the sale of the tenants.
Yeah, exactly. And like, imagine if we did want to sublet. Wait, let me actually check it. Sublet. Okay, yeah. So, and like our image should be maintained, everything. Okay. Okay, so they'll be acting as departments with our names. We have to work on that percentage, but other than that, that looks quite good. We'll choose the departments, the stores we want to sublet. And imagine.
One more thing. So you'll choose the stores, but how can we be sure that they'll generate a good amount of sales? Something that is of the caliber that some stores will be able to generate. What I think is that like, how are we supposed to know if a certain tenant is going to generate as many sales as they possibly could?
I mean,
or like, would there be a better tenant to fill that space? Is another way of phrasing that.
is this sort of similar to the use conflict we had? That there is risk involved there. That like even if we do not sublet it, there's also risk that consumers won't want to buy our products, and that there's always going to be the risk of not knowing in the future if profit is going to be made. How can we minimize that risk? I mean, we could also do research to see if it would be profitable, because I mean, if it's profitable for us, it's also profitable for you. We're both, that's a goal for both of us.
Right. And the thing with this is, like, if you were to do the research, send that off to us, and we were to approve it, then we could just give you the permission right away to let these people in. But
Wait, can you repeat that last part?
So what you're saying is we could have a similar process like we do for use, where you'll do the research, you'll make sure that these companies are right for the job, taking on the responsibility of filling that space. And then we'll take a look at it, we'll look into it ourselves, and if we can both agree that it's a good idea, then we can go ahead and grant you permission. You can let them in as soon as you want to, essentially.
Okay. That sounds really good, and it brings us back to, like, if we both agree, great, but if we don't both agree...
Again, if we don't agree, then how are we going to settle?
Yeah. We could always use an arbitrage, like get someone in.
Right, like a third party.
Third party, yeah.
Or perhaps...
third party.
Or we could suggest some ideas to you, and then you can go back and take a look at those.
That's true.
And if we can't agree there, then we can bring in a third party.
Arbitrage,
And I think we can make this apply to use as well, if you think about it.
Yeah. Ideas.
So you suggest some ideas. We look at them. If we disagree, we'll send you some of our ideas for who should fill the space.
Yeah.
And if you disagree with that, then we'll bring in a third party.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's good. That's good. It still puts us at risk that the arbitrage might give you all of the power, so that would be terrible for our firm. So I think we should definitely use that, but not for all. Imagine we base the change of 5%. If the arbitrage gave you the how do you put it in English? Agreed. Like if the arbitrage agrees with you, with your side.
Right. Then it puts you at a disadvantage.
Yeah. Instead of like giving you the 5% of the whole power, it can maybe give you 3 or 4 and give us 2 or 1. That still gives us a bit of flexibility, even though the arbitrage is signed with you, because especially with usage, like with subletting, I think like we can be more flexible, but with we can give you guys more power, but with usage, like 30 years is a hell of a long time. We really, like, even if the arbitrage sides with you, if we have a strong idea, we want to change our market strategy, we're going to have to do that, because we can't have one of our shops selling something which we don't believe consumer wants, and in the rest of the world selling something else. That's something we just can't do, especially with usage. As I said, we can definitely do that in subletting. With usage, you're going to have to work with us, give us a better deal, because even though arbitrage is a really good idea, it still puts us at risk of not being able to change it.
Like, we can't be certain that this third party is going to be completely fair and unbiased.
I would definitely use this for subletting.
The arbitrage?
Yeah, and the suggested ideas, you guys, and then if that doesn't work, the arbitrage. Because with subletting, we're not at that big a risk.
But use is a much bigger concern.
Yeah.
It reflects maybe the changing industry.
Yeah, like if you're willing to give us more flexibility in usage, we can definitely work with those percentages. If not, we really have to work with it. So there isn't a possibility of if not, basically.
Right. Okay. So.
I mean, if we can't change the usage, what we would do basically is sublease a lot of our stores and we would move somewhere else, because we can't be selling a product we don't believe in.
Right.
We would just sell our rental space to another company which would be willing to lease it, and we would move out, because we really can't do that.
So again, what you can't do is you can't. So what we're saying is that for subletting, it will be okay to go with arbitrage for that to settle the difference, but it would not be acceptable for us, because we can't, if the third party is biased at all, this could affect us both negatively. For example, if they side with us, but you guys were right all along, then, that's a lot of money that we're missing out on.
Yeah. Usage. What about if you give us flexibility with usage, like being able to change the products we sell illimitedly, but if you guys don't agree with it, then we sublease it to a secure, credit-worthy company, and we just move out, and you substitute us with another anchor tenant. I mean, that's not, I don't think that's going to happen, because we're not going to drastically change it. If we do drastically change, I mean, we could always do this, but imagine we want to turn, let's get into the situation we were in before. We got to move into the furniture store, and it's something we really want to do.
Right.
And you guys don't agree with it. If you do agree with it, then perfect. We get the furniture in, we get this satisfied tenant out. It still works perfectly. But if you guys are against it, we sublease a percentage, like 10% of our anchor tenant, to another store which sells the same products as we do, but they have another name. So you have a smaller anchor tenant, and the resources we use for producing that 10% selling it here, we just create another store somewhere else to sell the furniture, maybe, I don't know, 100 meters away from this place. Or maybe even...
So what you're saying is basically to sell the new products, sublease a certain percentage of the space to them to sell those products. If we're in a situation where we can't agree on if it's a good idea.
Like, if you're going to let the other company sell those products, you might as well just let us. The problem would be if you don't let us sell those products, which we would have to move away from the mall, the shopping mall.
Okay. Because like you said, subleasing that space wouldn't make sense because you could just sell it yourself. Furthermore,
like a whole different company would sell something else with their own brand name.
Yeah, it kind of defeats the purpose again. And again, what if one of the satellite tenants sells that same thing, but you're subleasing it this time? Then it becomes even more of a problem.
Yeah. Let me check. See if I'm missing something.
Yeah, I'm gonna check my notes as well. I feel like we made so much progress and everything else is just this one issue.
Yeah.
What'll happen if we can't both agree or something?
Just fight until we do, I suppose.
So I feel like with subletting, we've more or less covered our bases there, except for exactly what percentage and how it might change over time. That's one thing we got to work out. And something else I was thinking of that's kind of related to both assignment and subletting is that remember that we earn our revenue based on a certain percentage of sales from you and all of our satellite tenants, right? And a lot of that that comes in the form of rent. But what's going to happen if you or any of our satellite tenants are delinquent? So satellite tenants, we have provisions that say that if you're delinquent for a certain amount of months worth of rents, then we might want to replace you with someone else.
So when you say delinquent, you mean not paying the rental?
Right, like if you miss rent payments, because that's how we make our money, and we need something to kind of protect against that. But then again, that might not be related to subletting. Let me think of it, because the idea is that the company that you sublease to, their sales are kind of integrated with your sales, and then you'll pay us rent based on that, your total sales. So then it's more of a question of how long should you be able to maybe just put off that rent payment before we start having problems with it. I think 2 months might be a good number. So you can be delinquent on no more than 2 months rent at any one time. case like of hard times.
Yeah.
But
2
then
months?
again, you're a pretty big store. I think that won't be much of an issue, to be honest. It's just something to think about.
But 2 months, I feel as if it's a really short time. Like, imagine a crisis arises,
Right.
we're not able to pay our suppliers, providers, and we're 2 months behind schedule with payments. Do you really think, like, just for 2 months of rental, we have to like move our whole store out of there, which the cost would be like really big compared to just 2 months of rental?
So you're raising the question is it more fair to make it for 2 months of rent or possibly make that longer, or would it be a better idea to find someone else? Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, basically.
Because like it might be more costly for you if you have to stay there and you're just kind of getting a backlog of rent. And you could possibly bring someone else in who will generate more sales, and then you could maybe move somewhere else where you can get more sales for yourself.
I would definitely make this time longer if that's something you can work with. Do you think that's something you guys can work with? If you're very stuck on this amount of time, then I suppose we can also work on it. But
okay. So was there like a certain range that you had in mind?
no, this actually doesn't come on in my information at all. But I feel as if it's a lot of risk. Just 2 months. Like, my logic tells me it's very small time, very like short time. I mean, this is, as you said, I don't think it has anything to do with subletting, because that would come into our sales, but I think it has to do with subleasing, in which case, like, since it's not, like, you guys aren't getting any benefits because we're not able to pay our rent, we can always sublease part of our area to another company which will pay rental.
Well, to another company that will generate more sales and thus be able to
With their own brand name. I mean, it also actually does have to do with subletting, because like if we get someone else in who gives us more profit, then we gain more earnings and we can pay you rent.
So the idea is that if you're delinquent on more than 2 months of rent, we can kind of take control of some of the space, maybe sublease it to someone else that we feel would be able to generate the sales needed to get you back on track.
But if you do that, you would give us, what compensations would you give us? So do you have, like, if you guys decide to sublease, compensation to Summit, perhaps to compensation to Summit. So you will have the right to take back the rental space,
Right.
subject to compensation to Summit.
Right.
So you would have to definitely pay for all the like costs of moving, right? And maybe even a like further compensation.
So repeat that one more time.
Like if you want to take back the rental space,
Right.
like if you do have that right, which is still something we have to negotiate on,
Yes.
like we would be subject to compensation.
Right.
Definitely, like regarding moving costs, because I mean you can't give us, if you give us a rental space and we do badly for just 2 months and you just like kick us out of there, we're obviously going to want some recompensation.
Right, because that's one of your locations.
Exactly, like we've invested money for this location, we've done like studies and everything, and just being kicked out of there, definitely we would need like to cover costs first of all, and then compensation for all of the time wasted and missing on opportunities where we could have.
So like if we're going to take back space, we need to compensate. So what I was thinking was, what if when we take back some of the space and then we sublease it to another company, how about if we integrate their sales with your sales, and then again rental? Well, then again, how can we be sure we can get the rent payments back? Because that was kind of the idea with taking back some of the space. Then we could go directly to them for that money. But if we integrated with yours and then you paid us the rent on that, if you're falling on hard times, then
So you're saying Could you repeat that last part?
So what I was saying was, I was just kind of thinking out loud that maybe we could take back control of some of the space, but when we decide to sublease that space to someone else, their sales will be integrated with your sales, so you stand to make more of a profit from it.
But that's subletting, right?
Yeah,
So it's like,
essentially.
are they selling with our name, our own brand?
If we feel like you're falling behind in your payments and that we could be more profitable if we had a different mix, then the idea was that we could combine, again, your sales with their sales. So you'll make more money and then you'll be better able to pay us back.
Yeah.
But then it becomes an issue of, would it be worth it to do that? Or instead for us to charge rent for them in that same space? Just charge them directly because their ability to pay back would be better. If you're falling on hard times.
Yeah. I mean, if you take back the rented space, I feel as if, because when we do subletting, it's like a completely different brand. I feel as if that other brand wouldn't want to share their profits with us. So I think if you take back the rented space, you would, I would say, cover costs, cover moving costs for us. Since we will be giving our territory back, cover costs, and give us compensations.
So the compensation will be for just taking back that space, right?
Yeah.
Now, something else I was thinking about is, what if you are falling behind in your payments? We take back some of the space and then you start, you catch up. How could we possibly maybe get rid of the other people, kind of give that space back to you?
Yeah.
It's another thing we have to think about.
Yeah.
Or would it even be worth it to do that?
I mean, the lease is 30 years, right? Imagine in year 10, we start to fall back.
Right.
So we sublease to another company. But that subleasing, we say to the company, we're subleasing it to you for 5 years. But from year 15 onwards, we have the right to let you guys go. You have to take that risk to get the anchor tenant to sum it back in.
Right.
I feel as if they might be able to, like 5 years is a long time, I think they could agree to that. And that way we have the possibility to get back in there if we start doing better. If we don't, then they can just go on for the whole 30 years.
So you're saying that if we decide to take some of that space back, or even all of it, we'll give that space to them for 5 years, and then we'll deal with them for the duration of those 5 years. But if you start recovering, proving that maybe it would be a good idea to bring someone back, then we can smooth them out and bring you back. I can see that working if we only took back like a portion of the space.
Yeah, but not, I was thinking the same thing.
If we took all of it,
Okay,
that
so
could be a bit problematic.
should we put this down for portion?
Right, so if we take the portion of it,
Then great, and if it's all of it, then I feel as if the compensation will have to be greater because we're using all of our space. So I think we should like create a relationship there. The more space you guys lease back from us, the more compensations we need because we're using like valuable space, valuable inversion we made.
so the way I see it here, this part in black is all about like if you decide to move out, but this is all about if we decide to take that space back.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna have to compensate you on that. So now it becomes a question of what is a fair mix for this compensation. So you're saying cover your moving costs and compensation, I guess, for taking back the space, but what form would that compensation take? I mean, I guess covering moving costs would be some form of compensation.
Yeah.
But are there any other forms that this compensation might take?
I would say covering moving costs and administrative costs as well. Those are two costs we will incur.
So these administrative costs will include such things as
such things as handling all the paperwork, firing employees who work there, working on the payments we have to make to those employees for firing them without notice,
I think we can agree on that.
layoffs.
So we'll cover the cost for moving in for the administrative costs as well. If we decide that it would be a better idea to just move some stores out and bring some of it, I think that seems.
And even then, I feel like there should be like a larger conversation so that you guys don't like throw us out whenever you feel like it, but you really have to like think about it, and it has to be a big decision, and the cost of doing so is going to be difficult, so that you can't like just have complete power of us and just let us go whenever we want.
Well, we could issue some kind of a warning when you're delinquent on like 1 month's payment, and then be like, remember that this might happen if you fall back on 2 months of.
So 2 months of non-payment, right? This would be.
So that's when we would come in and decide, if we want to take office space back.
And you would only issue this situation if we didn't pay for 2 months, right?
Right. This situation would only happen if you didn't pay for 2 months, or possibly longer. But if you miss like 1 month of payment, then we'll give you a warning. But everything will continue to go normally.
Okay.
Well, changes will only occur after 2 months.
Okay. Just for the sake of it, I'm gonna like this wording thing. I'm gonna put progressive, punitive. I think the word is measures, because I studied it in HR and it sounds really good. I mean, it's like little by little,
Right.
Is
So like
punitive the word? Punitive.
punitive kind of implies like a punishment.
Yeah, exactly. So like progressive.
Right. So at the first warning will be like, well, you're at risk of this. Better get everything together, and then after the 2 months, we'll issue another warning saying, you're at this point, and we're looking to do this.
Okay. And if this case doesn't come along in the whole 30 years, you guys can't take back any space you gave us, right? Like, unless we want to. I mean, why would you? If we're paying.
I mean, if you're on track with your payments and you're still drawing the same kind of traffic that we're looking for, then I see no reason to go ahead and take back any of this space. Because again, you're gonna want to change your business model if you feel like the industry's changing.
Yeah.
You're gonna want to change, I guess, your business model only if consumers are showing that they have different tastes and things. Essentially, the idea is that you're still gonna want to keep just getting more customers to come to your store. As long as we can maintain a good balance of that, then I think there will be no reason for us to take back the space. But if you can't generate that same traffic, then what are we going to do in that case?
What if the sublease company can't?
Right.
You mean?
But then again, it kind of comes back to the idea that we wouldn't agree to something we didn't think was a good idea, right?
Yeah.
Because we already have these measures in place for subletting and use, where you think, oh, we got to move to this new industry, or we should probably bring on this new company to start selling things in our store, and then we'll take a look at it and we'll see if that's a good idea or not, based on your reasoning. But then again, so it becomes a question of, if we both agree, but one of us was wrong, then what'll happen?
But in the subleasing, are we talking about?
I feel like.
Because in the subletting, arbitrage.
Right.
We suggested arbitrage.
Right. Okay, so I guess I could cover our basis for subletting. Then it becomes a question of use, like.
And subleasing, like giving it to a completely different company.
Right.
One of the potential compromises says, assignment will be allowed only after a certain number of years of operating. After that, restrictions will apply.
So where are you seeing this one?
Under assignment, the first bullet point.
Right.
In the common information. How much time have we been recording for?
Probably close to an hour.
Yeah, actually, just right now an hour. Should we stop?
Yeah, we can stop.
Or would you rather like do everything and then cut parts? Do you think it's good enough what we've done for now?
Yeah, I mean, he's only looking for an hour.
Yeah, okay.
So.